are recording. Welcome to episode 5 of Faint Praise. I'm Toni.
I'm Eric.
And this is a podcast where we compare movies with similar themes by scoring them in a few different categories in order to decide which one did it better. And this week, I don't exactly know what this theme is, but it's like future...
Well, we came up with a name. It was
like future lady assassins with stupid black hair.
No, it was future something Vixens. Future
virus
violence.
Vixens.
Yeah, future virus Vixens.
Yeah, future virus Vixens.
Because that's the theme.
Yeah,
Themes.
Sure. With black hair. The black hair seemed to be, whenever I thought back on it, what made me never able to remember which one did which.
Which is funny because her hair wasn't always black in the one.
True. Turns out she's not always black-haired. I was stereotyping her. I was trying to put her in a box that she shouldn't have been in. So the actual movies we did were Ultraviolet and Aeon Flux from the years 2006 and 2005, respectively. So this
ages ago.
Well-known quality movies, both of them.
No doubt.
Yeah, and
we were sprightly young people when these movies came out.
We were full of hope.
And so were Charlize Theron and Mia Jovovich.
Yeah, and both of them are still fucking jumping around to this day. So good for them.
These wires.
Yes.
Wires and
maybe they do their own stunts.
Human growth hormone.
Yeah.
Or virgin blood or something.
Yeah. I mean,
stem cells.
I mean, the same, especially with actresses, it seems like the same ones do action movies all the time.
Maybe
so
it's
I'm
the
sure
resilient
there's
ones.
definitely skill involved in it. I mean, they're obviously not running on the walls like they are in the movies, but
well, I think they're probably pretty good at making it be able to look like anyone's doing it, but there's probably only a certain number of them that actually look good doing it.
Yeah,
same
maybe.
like with anyone
so maybe
go
some
out there
people
and
like run funny,
hang around, right?
Yeah.
Or they just do slow.
Like remember in Haywire, what's her name? Gina Carano, like looked like she didn't know how to walk.
Like
so
you,
all the stunts,
like you forget how to walk.
All the stunts looked awesome, but she'd be walking down the street like with the.
They're like, now walk like normally, and she's like, how do I walk? What's walking normally again? Shit.
Yeah,
I'm gonna walk like I'm walking.
I really related to that part. It's the only part of Haywire.
As soon as you start thinking, it's like when you say a word too often and it sounds totally bizarre.
Yeah.
Like broccoli.
Yeah.
Broccoli. What?
Yeah. So you're walking, and then you start to be like, does the right arm go with the right leg or against
or
the
against
right
it?
leg? Or what's
what's
my butt supposed to do during all of this?
Clench always.
Anyway, back to the movies. As the struggle is with every week, it's always which one to watch first. This one, we went by Rotten Tomatoes scores and just by
I don't remember
general...
which one was worse.
Aeon
Flux was worse?
No, barely. So both of these...
Oh, no, yeah, we watched the worst one first.
Yes.
It's our tradition.
Yes, so both of these on Rotten Tomatoes, Ultraviolet got a 9%, and Aeon Flux was only
just
a 10%.
kind of how if you have like vegetables and dessert, you don't want to eat your dessert and then have to choke your way through the vegetables. You want to get them out of the way quickly.
Sure. This one was more like... old vegetables and older vegetables.
Vegetables and worse vegetables.
Yeah, old canned peas and then maybe like fresh peas. So anyway, we watched Ultraviolet first. And a little bit of an experiment this week because we watched these like a week ago. We normally try to watch them.
You should have outed us.
Oh,
no one would have known. I think we will do a fine review. I remember them just fine. I don't know about you. You don't?
I have a terrible memory. So at least I did my notes.
I mean, we wrote stuff down.
I did my notes the same day, so hopefully my notes will jog my memory. But in general, I actually don't remember movies very well after I'm done watching them. So this will be interesting. But yeah, we meant to do the podcast, the next day, but then Eric got sick and then I got sick.
Life finds a way.
And we're very busy adults with many important things to do.
Exactly.
So anyway.
So get off our backs.
Here we are a week later, me trying to remember way back when, 7 days ago.
Couldn't you remember that she had purple hair for some of the movie?
I remembered. It was in my notes. That was in my notes, Eric.
It's in the notes.
So anyway, starting off with our quick synopsis of Ultraviolet, it is the opening credits really want you to think that this is a comic book movie. So the opening credits
Which maybe it is. I don't know.
I don't think it is. I looked around on Wikipedia. I don't see anything that indicates it's actually a comic book movie. I'm sure they wanted it to become a comic afterwards, but as far as I could tell, this was not a graphic novel or a comic book or anything like that.
Okay.
But it wanted you to think so. And then after the credits are done, you get the longest narration I've ever, like...
It was pretty long.
It was, like, really comprehensive narration, but still managing to leave out extremely important information.
Right, and it was almost like they wanted to narrate enough that they wouldn't have to have a real story because they've explained it all early, so they could just have action scenes after that.
Yeah,
but
ridiculous. But then they didn't actually explain some really important things. Also,
right, a lot of stuff didn't
I realized
make sense.
that there's a theatrical cut and a director's cut. We watched the theatrical cut, and I think
that's the way to do it, I think.
Yeah, it's anyway.
God forbid we make it longer.
Yeah, I didn't want any more of this. So anyway,
well, the bottom line is
long narration saying that explaining something about there was a virus that made people hemophages /
which is basically vampires. They called them
Yeah.
hemophages, but they weren't like traditional vampires, I guess.
Right, they never showed them.
They had like
drinking
fangs,
blood
but they didn't explain the downsides.
Like blood is a theme in the movie, so obviously it's.
But
it
only
has to do
talking
with
about
blood, but-
antibodies and stuff. Not
Right.
talking about so they would fight the humans, I guess, and the humans were for some reason really afraid of the disease spreading, but they didn't really show in the movie. They didn't really explain a downside to having the virus.
We'll explain that in the structure section. You're completely right, though. But
Yeah.
anyway, in this narration, she explains about the hemophage epidemic, and since the humans are so afraid of becoming hemophages, they try to
infected.
eradicate all the hemophages. They're getting pretty close, but now the hemophages are fighting back. The government is also kind of like a medical group.
Yeah, it's like some weird fascist corporatism thing where like this one big medical company is what's taken over because they're in these giant like walled off cities, I guess.
Yeah, and the lead guy for that is his name is Daxus. Movie starts out, her name is Violet. It's not Ultraviolet. It's just Violet.
Just Violet.
Yeah, so Violet steals a weapon from the government because she works for the hemophage people. She is a hemophage. So she steals this weapon. Everyone tells her not to open it. She opens it and it turns out to be a kid.
Floating in water.
So she like makes this assumption that the kid must be able to cure hemophages. I don't even remember why she thinks that. But she makes this assumption that the kid must be able to cure hemophages. So she wants to take the kid back to her own hemophage scientist who
seems
William
to be like
Fichtner.
some sort of faction of the hemophages, not even like maybe the main ones. I couldn't tell.
Yeah. So she takes the kid back to the scientist and says, "Oh, he must be able to cure hemophagy." And the scientist is like, "No, he can't." So,
But we have to kill him.
yeah, we have to kill him. But the kid's actually set to self-destruct for some
they said
reason.
that he's gonna die in like he has a regressive protein something. He's gonna die in 8 hours.
Yeah, so the Daxus guy comes after them. He ends up telling them that the kid is actually a clone of him and that, no, the kid doesn't cure hemophages. The kid has something in his blood that is supposed to make people sick and make the people rely on the government for a cure to keep them alive.
He has some other different type of new disease or something.
Yeah, so the kid, at this point where the kid is like self-destructing, but then Violet cries on him and turns him into a hemophage, but she didn't realize it till later. So the kid...
Is that what's supposed to happen?
Yes, it
How do you
was.
know?
Because I read Wikipedia.
Oh, because I was like, we definitely weren't talking about that.
Yeah. So anyway, so the kid supposedly...
Is that how he recovers or something?
Yep, the kid supposedly dies. Daxus takes the kid, shoots Violet. She supposedly dies, but William Fichtner saves her. They take the kid back to their headquarters, and they're like about to operate on him to try to see if they could salvage his
Whatever
blood.
that virus was.
And that's when Violet wakes up from her own surgery and
Being
realizes,
resurrected.
and she remembers crying on him and realizes that must have infected him. And then she goes and gets the kid. Turns out he's alive. Turns out Daxus is a hemophage. They fight. She wins.
And they ride off into this vampire
So
sunset.
she and this kid, I don't even remember exactly how it ends.
Thrilling stuff.
It is. It's all very, very exciting.
Yep.
So the main
wild stuff.
The main purpose of this podcast is obviously not to give a detailed synopsis, especially not more than a week after the fact, but it's to...
I think reading Wikipedia is cheating because now you have a more in-depth understanding of the movie than you would have organically.
I know.
So it may affect your ratings because now it makes sense
I don't think
when
so.
it didn't make sense.
No, I don't think so. I think
Did
it
you
made
rate
my
it
ratings worse because I'm like, I only understood this because I went and read Wikipedia afterwards. But anyway, the
now
main
it's
part,
poisoned your mind
the
against
main
it.
part of this podcast is actually about our patented rating system, which is that we that we score it in 3 different categories: acting, visuals, and structure. And each one of us, me and Eric, can give it 0 to 5 points in each category. And at the end, I'll total up all the points for each movie, and whichever one got more points is the better movie.
A better movie.
The better movie. So let's get into the ratings. And for acting, I'm actually going to go first this time.
Do it. I was going to make you go first.
I'm going to switch it up a little bit.
I was going to tell you to go first.
Yeah. This is just an experimental episode, so we'll see how it goes. I have to admit, the acting didn't really bother me in this movie. It wasn't. This movie is terrible. There's no other way to describe it. It is an embarrassment to the people that made it. But it's not one of those movies that's necessarily embarrassing to the actors. I didn't feel. So I gave it a 2.5. A 3 is average, didn't notice it. There really wasn't any one actor that I felt like did a poor job. I mean, they were given nothing to work with. I thought the kid was fairly noticeably bad, but everyone else was just sort of like doing what they could. So 2.5. I'm gonna look through my notes and make sure Mia Jovovich is doing her Resident Evil thing. She's reading her lines, whatever.
And she's never been bad.
Yeah, and there's no chemistry between any of the actors, but part of that is that they're so poorly written. How could there possibly be chemistry? But, like, the main bad guy is just your typical cheesy, over-the-top bad guy. Barely even noticed him.
I thought he was not a good choice, casting-wise, for the main bad guy.
Sure. Yeah.
It didn't really work.
I can't remember anything about him. And that went for even, like, right after we turned the movie off. I couldn't remember. So that's not the time frame.
This was one of those movies that didn't feel like... It felt small in the sense that, like, I didn't feel like there were a lot of people in this movie.
Yeah.
Like, every time you go into a room, even if it was, like, the main bad guy's thing, there'd be, like, 2 dudes standing there.
Yeah.
Or, like, a big courtyard and there'd be, like, 4 people. And, like, you never go... And even in, like, the mall scene, they're kind of like a mall. There was, like, 14 or 15 people milling around.
Yeah.
Nothing ever felt, like, crowded or...
Good point. The only time there was ever more than 5 people on screen was when they had action scenes and they would have her stand in the middle of a group of people. And then the people around her would just accidentally kill each other.
That was, all the fighting is her making people kill themselves.
It's absolutely ridiculous. But anyway, so I felt like this was bad material that wasn't elevated by great acting, but I didn't feel like the acting dragged it down. So what'd you think?
I put 2.
Okay, that's,
same thing, except I definitely felt the weird lack of chemistry.
Yeah.
And I thought some of the choices for the actors were not bad, were just so random. It was such a randomly cast movie. It was a hodgepodge.
I'm guessing. So this is the same director as Equilibrium. I'm guessing maybe he liked working with William Fichtner in Equilibrium and felt like maybe he had too small of a role.
And I do think that a lot of, like, the stiffness that the characters had, a lot of that was just like you said, because of the way it was written, and they were trying to be all like doing protocol, but it just felt so stilted.
I couldn't blame the actors. I felt like
but I don't know what else to put that under. It doesn't feel like a structure thing. I mean,
well, I think it is a structure thing because it's writing, characterization,
but it's hard
dialogue.
To tell how these people were directed to act versus how they're just acting.
True.
So I'm going to put that under acting unless I know that was part of the writing.
I mean,
like dialogue, that's one thing.
We mostly agree. It's a 2 and a 2.5. We're only a half point
I wouldn't
off.
have been like, man, that was bad acting, but it just didn't feel quite right.
No. So I think we're mostly in agreement on this one.
And really, it was not much. I mean, there wasn't a lot of acting other than just her. It was mostly her. She was in literally every fucking scene, probably.
Yeah, it was mostly just her spouting whatever she had to explain.
Changing her hair color while walking through electricity or something.
Well, let's go ahead and transition into visuals. So
this movie was very specific. The visuals were not like random. They knew exactly what they were trying to do. And so everything was conscious, but very weird. Like, I remember even commenting in the first scene, I said, this movie looks expensive, because the first scene, funnily enough, was like a pretty good set, very specific looking, like clean and futuristic. But then after that, it got really bizarre into like hazy computer graphics, and she would like be walking around, all of a sudden electricity would buzz over her, and like her hair would change purple, or her suit would change color for no particular reason.
My note on this is... everything was purposeful and everything was wrong.
Right. So, it was all done on purpose and done poorly, like abstract
art. They did exactly
art.
What they wanted to do, and it was the exactly wrong thing to do.
Yeah.
They were so specific in the look of this movie.
Everything you could tell was exactly the way they wanted it to be, and also just retarded.
It is an ugly mistake. is that that's what this movie is. It is so ugly and it is so embarrassing looking. I would absolutely
really
be
didn't
embarrassed
like it.
if I had anything to do with the visuals in this movie and then went and showed it to somebody and said,
Right.
this is my work.
Other than if I was just like the special effects person who wanted to do something and they said, if this is what they asked for, I did the perfect version of that. You know what I mean? But that is what they asked for.
If you could get a screenshot of what was in their brain and then what I gave them, you would see it was 100%
that I did
matching.
perfectly what they wanted.
But when you look at what's on screen, you're just like, how could they possibly have wanted to do this?
Right.
So Eric already alluded to the fact that things just happen because they wanted them to happen. So especially at the beginning of the movie.
But they wouldn't explain any of it.
Right. There was no reason. And then they'd forget about it.
You could tell it was just like they had this whole like ratty 3-ring binder that they were writing in like, ooh, cool ideas of stuff that looks cool. And then they just made it into a movie.
Yes. Yeah, so Eric already alluded
motorcycle
to
driving up the side of a building.
To her changing colors. Apparently, one of her special powers is that she changes her hair and clothing color.
But she would do it like while standing next to people for no reason.
It doesn't have anything to do. It's not related to her mood.
Right.
Or her...
It wasn't like a strategic thing.
No.
She would just be like, she'd get into the building, would be walking next to the person, and all of a sudden would change her hair color.
Yeah.
And no one would say anything.
Yeah, but nobody else did it.
No one else did it, but no one thought it was weird when she did it.
Yeah, so this obviously is not a vampire thing, because she did it when she was trying to act like she wasn't a vampire.
She was pretending to be some courier,
and none of the other vampires did it.
Right.
Nobody else in the movie did it. So absolutely...
Was this more Wikipedia stuff that you know it was a power?
No, it wasn't a vampire power.
No, I'm saying, but you said it was some power she had.
Oh yeah, there is Wikipedia stuff that
because I was like, this just happened. It didn't say it was a power or technology.
No. I'm saying that there are powers they get from the virus that I saw on Wikipedia, but
So how does Wikipedia know if it's not from a comic book or something?
So I got the distinct feeling when reading the Wikipedia
the director
article.
was he was like, they don't understand.
He's like, well, in the director's cut, they explain
everything's
this
explained
better.
quite well.
Yeah, when you look on the Wikipedia page, it's just like, and the theatrical version took that out. So
those motherfucking editors. Ah, shit.
We can get into some more of that stuff in the structure section, but you fucking called it. Like it definitely was the director who did the Wikipedia page. But no, what I was saying was that she changes colors every 2 seconds at the beginning.
But really only back and forth between black and like purple.
Yeah, purple hair, black hair, yellow suit, red suit, whatever. But
and then she stops doing it.
In the middle, she completely stops. And then she starts it back up at the end for one scene. And that one actually made the most sense because right before she has her big fight scene at the end, she turns red. Yeah. And I made a note about this because it was one of those moments where I said, who made this movie and why didn't they think of this? So she's about to kick some ass. You can tell because she's looking at a room full of people she's going to kill, and she literally tells them, "You're all going to die." Right. In what I think they thought was going to be a great line. She's wearing an all white suit, and as she's looking at them, it turns red. Right. But the camera is on her ass. It's like a close-up of her ass. And it starts to turn red from her ass. And I'm like
period stains.
Yeah, what the fuck? It looks like like she just started her period on camera.
Bleeding ultraviolet.
Yeah, so like I said, this was who made this movie? Right. How is that not the first thing you thought when you had the camera up on her ass and said it's going to turn red?
A big red spot right from the middle.
And we both commented on it during the movie. Actually, I think you did. And, and I was thinking it just baffled that they would even consider. It would have been fine if they had started maybe like from the front and the red started like at her chest, like at her heart. Right. And it started from there, or maybe the head down, but at her ass. Oh, come on.
But that does lead me into pretty much the only reason I gave this any points for visuals was because of her.
Okay, so we didn't actually give your scores. What's your visual score?
I put 1.5.
I put 1.
I know.
I put 1 because if you're a fan of midriffs, then this is your movie.
Because she's super hot. Yeah. So I was like, well.
She's a good-looking woman. You get to see her belly button. Nothing else.
Well, it shows her face a lot, which is honestly her best asset in my opinion. But and it's her the whole entire movie. Yeah. So and she's good looking.
Yeah.
All I can stop thinking is like she obviously looks hilariously Russian.
Yeah.
And then it seems like you would just be wandering around like Ukraine and walk into like a grocery store and there'd be like some chick looking like that, like serving you a Mountain Dew or something.
Yeah,
like, holy crap.
6 feet tall.
Gorgeous, and just
slender.
Like, wow,
perfect bone structure,
super angry looking.
And could absolutely kill you at a moment's notice.
Or at least would want to.
Or she could get somebody to kill you at a moment's notice. Maybe more like So I don't think we really talked too much about the CG. It's horrible.
But again, it's like it's purposefully done. It's like this hazy, like weird looking, like stylized comic book type thing where they use like minimal number of colors and stuff.
It's difficult. It's difficult to tell what was purposeful.
It's like
and
halfway
what
between real CG and like a Scanner Darkly type thing where they do I forget what they call that.
Yeah.
Where it's supposed to look like a cartoon.
Yeah.
Because the whole like motorcycle chase, they really was like stylized.
Right.
I wouldn't even say it was bad CG. It was just stylized in a weird way that I didn't like.
And also,
while motorcycles are driving up the side of buildings.
Yes, and the motorcycles look like they're just sliding, not like they're actually driving. It just looks
not
like
rolling.
It looks like the motorcycle's staying in the same place and the ground is moving under it. Sort of thing. So it's just but it's all like very ugly.
Little games that used to cost like $0, and they were just made out of black lines and it'd be like, moving left and right.
Yeah, and
where the road is actually printed on the plastic and the screen is moving.
Yeah, and one of the things that we count in the visual section, especially for action movies, obviously, is fight choreography. This fight choreography.
I didn't like it.
It was horrible.
Because we mentioned it before, like it was obviously you have to be able to either move really fast as an actor or do film tricks to make it look fast, which they didn't really do.
Yeah.
You know, like something like I was just thinking about this the other day because of some other movie I was watching, I guess, but I haven't yet figured out what makes a difference between a movie's like some of the Jason Statham movies or The Raid or even Equilibrium where the stuff looks super fast and like visceral and gritty versus ones like this where they're not looking like they're moving that fast. It looks like they're barely hitting them. I don't know if it's the actors or the editing because in this one it was the same person as Equilibrium.
Yes.
Maybe it wasn't the same fight choreographer.
I'm pretty sure it was.
Because the fights were structured very similarly.
Yeah.
But the actual fights themselves, all her fighting was like she would move and make people shoot each other or stab each other.
Like we already said, she would stand in the middle of a big circle and move. A group of bad guys would get in a circle around her
and shoot at each other.
And then she would duck and they would all fucking kill each other.
And then she would like do a split and they'd try to shoot her and shoot another guy.
Yeah.
Then she would turn and they'd shoot again and shoot the last remaining until there was 2 guys left and they would somehow shoot each other.
She didn't actually kill all that many people in this movie. They mostly killed themselves.
I think she had a sword at one point and killed some people. But
she did. Also, her weaponry is inconsistent. She had these guns that would materialize out of nothing.
Well, they set that up earlier in the movie that they had this space technology. It was like the button basically, but it was some sort of space compression.
I'm giving Eric a very incredulous look because
Remember the first scene where they came in and they were like, the ninjas came in and they were killed and they put the swords back in by stabbing themselves and I was like, what the fuck are they doing?
Yes.
And then the guy said, space compression technology, very high end or something.
Oh.
I
didn't get that. Yeah.
You're too busy going already, like 3 minutes in. So they set that up that then she had those things on her wrist so she could reload the guns by like something that was stored basically like it was warping in everything.
Oh.
So she could fill up her guns
I completely missed this. I missed a lot of stuff.
So it was like you could carry all sorts of stuff without taking up any real space.
But I still felt like it was inconsistent because
idea.
Sometimes her guns would materialize out of nothing, and then sometimes she would kind of like grab someone else's gun and do something with it as if she didn't have anything. It would just, you never really knew.
Well, I think, they didn't really use it well, right. But I think she was still supposed to be able to run out. It wasn't infinite. It was just like you could store a whole backpack's worth of stuff in a pin.
Yeah.
The size of like a button or something. So.
Yep. So the real thing, like I said before about these visuals, the amazing thing.
So we're dead even right now. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, that's fine.
So you got 2.5 for acting, and I got 2. You got 1 for visuals, and I got 1.5.
Yeah.
Just because of hot Russian women.
Yeah, I didn't care as much about her midriff as you did. So, but you're right. But the really crazy thing about this movie is just how purposeful everything was, and how
everything you could just see him going like, oh yeah, just like that, and then like you're like, no.
And I recently
but why though?
Yeah,
like that fat why though.
Only about a month ago, I watched Equilibrium. So I love
Equilibrium.
I really like Equilibrium. And reminded myself a month ago when I watched it why I liked it. So with the same director,
maybe it was like the George Lucas effect.
Maybe.
Where he was like a weirdo and they let him run rampant on this one when he was controlled in the first one.
Yes, but they didn't let him do anything else on
Maybe it was those damn editors kept the movie good the first time.
Clickety clack, get on Wikipedia and try to clear my name.
Editor or the director's in his underwear at home, like making his own Wikipedia entry.
Right.
When the director came up with this idea.
Yeah. All right, so I think we've talked the visuals to death, but oh man, they are embarrassing. So tell me.
It's weird because like we said, it's not that they're necessarily poorly done if that's what you're going for. Mm-hmm. So maybe some people really like that. I don't know.
It got a 9% on Rotten Tomatoes. I don't think anybody really liked that.
I'm just talking about purely the visuals. I mean, obviously, for me, the weakest part was the structure, which is next.
Yeah.
Because I can see some people liking those visuals, I guess. I don't know. At least it was a distinct, purposeful thing and wasn't just because they were shitty at doing it.
It was purposeful, but I can't tell if that makes it better or worse.
I mean, I hated it, but it at least means that someone might like it if the person that made it liked it.
Sure. All right, well...
It's very polarizing at the very least, let's put it that way.
There's not too many people on one pole, though. It doesn't
have to be evenly polarized. It doesn't have to be
evenly
polarized. Yeah. It's like no one at the North Pole and like the 15 people at some research center at the South Pole.
Yeah, sure. There's no land at the North Pole. There's enough ice masses. There's ice to stand on the South Pole.
Leopard seals.
Yeah. All right, so you gave a little preview of your structure score, but all right,
I just gave it
lay
a
it
1.
on me. Yeah, me too.
Because there was a lot that just didn't even make any fucking sense.
Is this the first time we've given a movie the exact same?
I think so.
Score? So
by not even a half point.
You said 2, 1.5, 1.
Yeah, and you said 2.5, 1, and 1.
Yeah. Okay.
But I am, like I've said before, I'm really sensitive to movies that don't make sense.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't need to be explain a lot or go in depth.
Yeah.
But it has to make sense.
Yes.
So like some movie like John Wick or even other basic, even much shittier movies, if they just don't try to do anything other than some really simple action or whatever, that can be okay.
Yes.
But if you try to do a bunch of other stuff and just don't explain it and have stuff happen haphazardly, I will lose interest in the movie really fucking quick.
So what I learned reading Wikipedia...
What you learned with your discussion with the director.
Yeah. Apparently, this virus kills them after 12 years.
Okay, they did not explain that.
They did not say that.
Because I even wrote down here, like, there was this huge juxtaposition or the contradiction here.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I was looking for. Contradiction in the movie between the vampire people being really powerful, hating humans, but at the same time wanting to cure themselves.
Why would they want to cure themselves?
Right.
It seems pretty
fucking
awesome.
And they did not mention, I am almost completely positive, neither of us picked it up if they did, they did not say that the people died because of the disease.
I went back and watched the narration again because after I read that on Wikipedia, I went, whoa, maybe I just wasn't paying attention because I have a tendency to
But neither of us caught it.
Nope, they did not. In everything that they said in the narration, they talked about she lost her baby, she lost her husband, neither of which factors in anywhere in the movie.
Which I thought they would. Maybe that's in the director's cut too.
It is.
It is?
Yeah.
Baby comes out with its midriff exposed.
No, the husband comes back in the director's cut or something like that. The baby never... I think they told us about the baby
let me guess. She jumps out of the way and the baby and the husband kill each other.
No, the baby I think was just a setup to show why she actually cared about this kid.
That's fine. That makes sense.
Which would have been fine if it actually worked. But yeah, so apparently they have this 12-year lifespan after the hemophage virus.
Sorry, I don't know why, but I just wrote in quotation marks here, what am I doing?
I know why you wrote that. I know why you wrote that, because I wrote it too. Constantly throughout the movie. This is another one of those...
I think this was for me.
No.
Like, as with my life while watching this movie.
No, I know exactly why you did that, because I was going to talk about it too. But it is hilarious.
It's written shakily in blood.
Yeah.
What am I doing? There's no even question mark. It just says, what am I doing? It's a statement.
No, the reason that you wrote that, and this was another one of those moments like the period blood, that I just went, who made this movie and why didn't they see this? The characters constantly walk around saying, what am I doing? Why are we doing this?
Oh, okay, so that's why I wrote that. Do you remember that now? Yeah, now I do.
They're supposedly...
Because I put it in quotes. That's why I put it in quotes.
Because...
And I'm like, you tell us, bitch. We don't know what the fuck you're doing.
I also would like to know why you're doing what you're doing.
I think I made that joke.
Yes. So that's why you
we don't know. It wasn't in the opening credits thing. How are we supposed to know?
So all these reasons are why this movie had to get a 1 for structure, because it just actually didn't make sense.
Yeah, a lot of it they didn't explain.
The character motivations do not make sense.
They didn't explain the whole process of the disease.
Yeah, they didn't adequately explain why anyone... Apparently, apparently the characters did have motivation for doing what they were doing, but they didn't fucking tell us.
They didn't bother telling you the primary motivation why they would be wanting to get a cure. Or
Eric, we should have watched the director's cut.
I guess that's
it told
the
us
bottom
about
line
the 12 years. But it took the whole movie, I'm like, why do they want to cure this?
Right.
Why? And then every once in a while she would kind of like fall down like she was a little sick or something. And then she'd be like, oh,
well, they referenced dying.
Yeah.
Because I wrote that down, dying but powerful.
Yeah.
So they referenced it. They were like, it's bad to have this disease. We get it. But it didn't seem to be bad. They didn't reference when you would die or what from or why it was bad to be a vampire. They referenced like light sensitivity, but no one seemed to actually be bothered by the light.
Yeah.
And like the whole thing with the bad guy being like, the whole movie they set up that he's this crazy like germaphobe, but then he's actually a hemophage.
So why would he have fucking cared about the germs?
So why would he have cared about the germs? Yeah,
he didn't want to infect everybody else, or
yeah, it just didn't, nothing made sense.
No, they wanted to make that character eccentric, and
well, it's like I said, they came up with this weird idea for a character, and then they just threw in this twist at the end that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it had nothing to do with anything.
And also, I mean, so then he's come up with this plan for subjugating the people by making them reliant on whatever this new vaccine is, but he's going to be dead in 12 years anyway, or less than 12 years.
Yeah.
He hasn't cured his own shit.
Right, exactly.
So who cares?
Why don't you work on curing yourself?
Exactly.
Yeah, and of course, making the people, like you said, subjugating the people doesn't really, what's the purpose of
doesn't
that?
really make sense.
They
They're
basically
already
had control over everything
Right.
anyway, so why do you want the people constantly queuing up to...
Well, they were just like butthurt. That sound like they're like, oh man, the vampires are almost dead and people aren't scared anymore. It's like, sucks.
Well, I think part of it was, I got the feeling that this director just really likes having people have to get in line and get medicine from the government.
Because that's exactly what Equilibrium's about.
But Equilibrium did it perfectly.
They did it. They had a very specific reason.
Yeah.
They perfectly made it like a whole world building thing that worked really well.
Oh, another thing I liked on Wikipedia that made me think it was him that wrote it. Let me pull it up and make sure.
Where they had a picture of him not wearing a shirt.
No, it says, because of its many similarities with Equilibrium, the film is often considered to be Equilibrium's spiritual successor. I went,
spiritual dump, maybe.
Yeah. If I didn't know that this director was the same one as Equilibrium, I wouldn't have made a comparison.
I'd rather watch... Yeah, you may be able to notice the fight scenes being, hey, it's kind of gung fu like Equilibrium, but you're never going to notice all that. I'd rather watch random scenes from Equilibrium in no specific order than watch this movie again.
Yes, absolutely. That would be more fulfilling.
Yeah.
But, you know, maybe a couple... The outfit the little kid wore was reminiscent of an Equilibrium outfit. And then things like...
Like this white, like, kung fu or Mao suits or something.
It was kind of like a light blue.
But it's like a Mao
light
kind
gray.
of...
Yeah, real stiff-collared.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. But other than that, there really
Dr.
were...
Evil type
yeah,
thing.
and then the government wanting the people to be reliant on it.
Yeah, I would rather just watch a still frame of... What's her name? Mia Jovovich for 2 hours than watch that movie again.
Well, you have the internet. You could do that. So
that's true, but I'm saying this is a false choice. I'm not going to do either of those things.
Yes, that makes sense. So I'm trying to think what else. The structure isn't just the plot. So we're talking a lot about how this movie doesn't make sense, but that's not the only thing we talk about in structure. It's just that's the most salient thing about this movie is that as you're watching it, you're like,
the choreography,
why are they doing
that's visuals
that?
and structure. You know, that's something.
Right, but every time the characters, nothing they do makes sense except that they're supposed to do that. So at one point, William Fichtner expresses his love for Violet. You never felt that.
Check the director's cut. Might be something in there. Might be a whole fucking sex scene that we don't even know about.
And Violet is supposed to be feeling very maternal and protective toward this child. It's just because she's
it just falls
supposed
flat.
to.
I mean, they showed or they told you that that her kid died, so you get a little bit of a sense of that or whatever, but it doesn't make sense because they've just talked about she like probably less than 5 minutes before that says I hate all humans and want them all dead, which also doesn't make sense if you're only gonna live 12 years. Are you trying to cure yourself or are you trying to turn every human into a vampire? Pick one,
right? Yeah, why? What is this fight about?
And eventually you would all die out if you can't if the vampires don't reach like sexual maturity within 12 years because they would just eventually all die. They wouldn't be able to reproduce.
I mean, they're not exactly trying to turn babies or anything, but
But I'm saying once everyone is a vampire.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, nothing... Unless
vampires have human babies.
Another thing we haven't talked about that is a structure thing, the music. The
music doesn't match with the scenes.
Never. Ever.
It totally like snaps you out of and that's one of the problems with the it's not even the choreography, but is what makes the fighting even
Yes.
worse. Is it'll play like fucking weird elevator music, like it was like Skrillex does elevator
Girl
music.
from Ipanema was walking. While these people are like shooting each other in between.
But it's not
her
even
legs
like that,
and
like
everything. Yeah.
weird. It's,
no.
like
I know what you mean.
Fight-ish music, but like the wrong tempo or speed or mood.
I remember there was one scene where
it was all upbeat.
Yeah, where she was, or sometimes it was too intense, and it shouldn't have
Right.
been. The one scene I'm remembering specifically is she was running from the people, but now she's in a crowd, so she wants to keep her calm. She wants to keep her cool, so she's walking, and like Eric said,
Right.
it was like this really intense. It was this really intense chase music, but she's just like,
And then when they're
walking
fighting, it's
all
like
cool.
midriff.
Look at my belly. So it's a totally inept movie.
Yeah.
It's completely incompetent in
Right.
every way, except acting. I don't think the acting was incompetent.
No, not incompetent, just not great.
So both of us gave that a 4.5. That is a total of a 9. for
And that
this
seems
movie.
generous, but
Yeah. Well, I will say it had some value as something to make fun of.
And it
You
wasn't-
got some-
I wouldn't-
Eric got some pretty damn good riffs. One of them
Man,
was a
I should
visual
write 'em
one.
down.
I remembered one. It was a visual one. It's not going to explain
It's not
very
gonna play well.
Yeah. I mean, I'll explain it. If it's not good, I'll cut it. Whatever.
Okay.
But the little kid at first is nonverbal. It's very much an 11 from Stranger Things. I actually made the joke at first. I went, "Oh, Stranger Things totally ripped off Ultraviolet on this one," because he's this kid who's about the same age. He only has a number as a name. He was, raised in a lab.
I remember
His
it
head's
now.
all
It wasn't
shaved and
visual,
everything.
though.
Well, your joke on it was a visual joke.
Oh, was it? Then I
Yeah.
have another joke that I'll tell you that I didn't
Yeah,
remember.
so let's see if I can explain this one. But she's
Oh, I remember
she's
which
asking
one
the
now.
kid. She's like, "What's your name? What's your name?" He won't talk, and so
Right.
all he does is he holds up 6 fingers and he points to himself.
Right. That is the one I remember.
Yeah. So he just holds up 6 fingers and he points to himself. And she goes, "Oh, your name is 6." And then Eric looked at me. And he's acting like he's the little kid. He holds up 10 fingers.
No,
and
I
he
hold up
points to
9
her.
fingers
Yeah.
and points to her.
Yeah.
69. What would 10 fingers be?
I thought you were making a joke that she was like a 10, like a hard
Oh,
10
no,
or something.
I was making a 69 joke.
I
was
thought it
like,
was funny either
I'm
way.
the 6, you're the 9.
That's better than I
Yeah,
thought.
exactly. Because I held up the 4 and the 5, and I was like 9 you, like 6 me, 9 you.
Oh, damn. I didn't even get the full joke, and I thought it was funny still.
But that would be
so,
funny too.
yeah.
Like I'm just a 6, you're a 10.
Yeah, I'm a 6.
But I thought mine was better.
Yeah,
The 69
that is better.
joke.
That is better. But
'Cause he's
I
like,
think
"I'm
I think
6."
from the angle, I only thought you were holding up.
You
I
probably
thought you were
didn't
holding
see
up
my-
10.
yeah, my
Yeah, but I was
thumb.
like, I still liked it. What was yours that you remember?
That was the one I saw. I
Okay.
didn't remember it being a
Yeah.
visual joke. I remember making the 69 joke, but that his name was 6. And
No,
like,
so this was an absolutely horrible movie.
But it was one of those that, like, the only reason it was really hard to sit through, other than being like, this is bad, is that
Yeah.
it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Like, there was plenty of stuff happening that it wasn't, I wouldn't say it was boring,
Mm-hmm.
but when the stuff happening doesn't make any sense, you're just like, let's get this
Yeah.
over with. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, can we just get to the end? Come on,
Right.
I got another movie to watch after this.
Right,
Like you said, what am
exactly.
I doing here?
Right. What am I doing? Tony, what are we doing?
Yeah, I have fucking bills to pay. Come on, get this over with. Fortunately, it is only hour and a half, and you can make some pretty good jokes. So I would watch a riff tracks of this
Yeah.
movie. Maybe there is one. Maybe
Yeah,
I'll
maybe
look
there
it
should
up.
be.
I
Maybe
mean, I'm
we'll
not
tell
going to
them.
necessarily seek it out, but if a group of people I was in was like, oh, there's this Ultraviolet riff tracks, I'd be like, okay, yeah, whatever, I'll do that. So I didn't totally hate it, but it was totally terrible.
Yeah, it was bad.
All
As
right.
evidenced by the rating.
Yep. And not really a surprise with a 9%.
No.
So
And heading right into a extremely high 10%, right?
yeah.
We have Aeon Flux.
Aeon Flux.
Now, I don't know if you knew this, but this was actually based on a weird animated show that used to be on MTV. Like, there were shorts, as far as I know. And it had really, like, bizarre animation, and it got, so I don't want to say notoriety, but kind of like a cult following.
Yeah.
And so then they eventually made this movie years later.
I think I knew that there was something else. I wasn't sure
And I
if it
think
was a
maybe
comic.
that's sort of what they were going for in Ultraviolet, is they're trying to copy like that sort of history by making it look like a comic book,
Maybe.
almost like a comic,
that actually
like
makes
cartoon.
That actually makes sense that they would try to
Because
piggyback
this was
off
like
of,
a Armageddon,
yeah.
Deep Impact type thing where they came out right at the same time.
05 and 06, yeah.
So it may have been that they were purposely trying to like get that impression.
Maybe
maybe it was a similar type thing. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, going into the movie, I knew there was something else, and then after the movie, I tried to look at some of the cartoons. There's not really that much of it.
See if there's a director's cut that explains everything.
Man, that is an ugly cartoon.
It's really ugly. That's why I said it's really bizarre.
Yeah, it's so ugly. It's so gross.
Like she's all like sinewy and weird looking,
and her outfit is way more like
butt floss kind of thing.
Yeah,
like,
BDSM kind of stuff. They toned it down a lot in the movie, just made it regular like Catwoman leather type stuff. But anyway, the gist of Aeon Flux. A little bit similar to
another
Ultraviolet.
future virus vixen. Yep. That's why the theme.
This one killed 99% of all people on Earth, so at least the people don't still have the virus. But
apparently it might be out there in the Earth. They're worried about it because they're in like these bubble city or walled cities.
They've got them all walled in this city called Bregna, and they tell people that it's like that they can't go outside of the walls, that it's a wilderness wasteland type of thing. Right. And then at the end, the walls get busted down, everybody walks out into it. So they were hoping to be able to follow that one up. No one saw this movie though. So anyway, they all live in this future society in Bregna. That's pretty much supposed to be, I don't want to call it a utopia, but I think it's supposed to be a nice place to live, except people start disappearing randomly.
Well, there's like a resistance because people don't like the idea that even though it's like a utopia, everything's pretty fairly controlled, I guess.
Yes.
And there's sort of like, it's not even the control so much as I guess there's supposed to be some sort of like aristocracy and then like normal people, and they don't like that.
Right.
So that's kind of the impression.
So it's also run by a group of like government scientists.
But they're almost like a church too.
Yeah. So kind of similar
like
to
an order,
Ultraviolet.
I guess. I don't know how else to describe it.
Yeah. So it was supposed to be 400 years of rule by this good child family.
The same family, yeah.
Yeah.
Who originally cured the virus. He was and then made the city wherever. Which. I don't know. That was one of, without getting into the story, like if they cured the virus, why do you need to be in these weird cities to begin with?
Yeah.
You either cured it or you didn't.
Yeah. It didn't make a lot of sense. So anyway, they're in this city run by the good children. This rebel organization called the Monicans is just sort of fighting the man. They don't really have a goal.
Yeah.
They don't really even have a reason.
They just want to take the good childs from power, but they don't really explain like what would be different with someone else there.
So Aeon Flux is an assassin in the Monicans. She has a sister who is killed by the Monicans, ostensibly because the Monicans think that she's... Oh, no, I'm sorry. The sister is killed by the good child regime, ostensibly because they think she's a Monican.
Right.
So this is Aeon's reason for hating the good child regime. So a year after her sister dies, she finally gets her chance to go in and try and kill Trevor Goodchild, the main one. So it's two brothers. It's Trevor and Oren Goodchild.
Yeah.
And so she goes to try to kill Trevor Goodchild. Long story short, she ends up fucking him instead.
Yeah.
Well,
she like sort of recognizes him.
They both get these deja vu flashes,
and then
he calls her a weird name. She gets knocked out. He puts her in prison. She gets out and she goes and fucks him. And then she gets away. So now she's in trouble with the Monicans as well because she didn't kill him.
So wham bam, thank you, sir.
Yeah. Eventually...
Yeah, they get mad. Then Frances McDormand gets mad at her because...
Frances McDormand is the...
she's like, I'm not sure I really agree with your assassin work there.
Nice. I like that. Eventually, Aeon and Trevor get together and he explains to her something about the reason the good childs have been in power for so long is because the virus apparently made everybody sterile.
So even though they cured it, everyone's sterile, and now no one's really having babies. They're secretly cloning people and impregnating the women or implanting the embryos when they go in to get tests.
So whenever anybody dies, they take that person and then they clone them.
They just make a clone of them. So there's a copy of them. They use that DNA and give them to another family.
And there's this blimp that goes around the city and it's got all the DNA from...
It's like the DNA library.
Yeah, it's got the DNA library.
And Petey Postlewaite guarding it.
Yeah, Petey Postlewaite. So it turns out that Trevor's brother Oren was the one who actually called the hit on him because
he's finally pissed off after 400 years of just being second in command, I guess.
Yeah, how did they never switch that up? But
well, not that they never switched it up, but like this is a clone of the person, and this has never happened before, I guess. I don't know. I guess it's not that ridiculous.
Sure, whatever. But what they find out...
Oren gets mad. He tries to take over.
Oren was the one who called the hit. And he did it because Trevor had been trying to cure the infertility. And unbeknownst to Trevor, he had actually succeeded. Women were starting to get pregnant on their own.
But Oren didn't want that for some reason. He liked the status quo of them being in charge.
So the reason people were disappearing was because whenever a woman got pregnant...
legitimately pregnant.
Oren would have her killed. And then have her recycled back into the society as a clone.
No, he wouldn't. He was disappearing them. He wouldn't even have them recycled. Because remember, he said when they happened to Aeon Flux, they said not to recycle her, but then Petey Postaway did anyway.
No, you're getting it backwards.
Am I?
Because Aeon's sister wasn't killed because she was... They didn't think she was a Monacan. They killed her because she was pregnant.
But she didn't get... Oh, she didn't
She
get
got
cloned.
recycled.
Oh,
She got
right.
recycled. Yeah.
Which,
And
why
the
would
reason
you do
he
that?
didn't bring Aeon back was because he knew... Aeon turns out she's a clone of the original Trevor Goodchild's wife. And the brother
they
knew...
always reconnect or
Yeah,
something.
the brother knew that if he brought the wife back as a clone, that she would have too much influence over Trevor. So Oren had told Trevor 400 years ago that her DNA was corrupt. He couldn't bring her back. But Pete Postlewaite up in the blimp liked her so much he brought her back after 400 years because he said he could tell shit was going down and that she was going to be able to help Trevor get out of this. So that's what the movie is about.
Right.
I mean, we just kind of...
And eventually they succeed.
Yeah, that's what happens.
Sort of.
So Aeon and Trevor kill Oren. Aeon brings down the blimp
super
full
blimp.
of DNA so that
And
now...
then they're like, fuck it, we're just going to rely on hoping that people can actually have his
Yeah.
kids like we said.
Yeah, it was still only like 1 in 10 women or
Right, it was
something
not
could
a common
reproduce. So they're
occurrence.
still... I hope they have really long lifespans.
Right.
Because she just kind of fucked the society.
Yeah, because having like 8 babies out of 100,000 people is not really going to be a sustainable thing.
Yep. All right, so let's get into the ratings on this one. For the acting, I'll go first again.
You go first. You do that.
Yeah. It's all about me. I gave it a 3.5.
Really?
So,
I gave it a 2 again.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, here's why I gave it a 3.5. I actually felt like the chemistry between Aeon and Trevor was very good.
It was good.
I felt like it was
I'll admit.
noticeably good, and I believed them as a couple. I more than believed them. I wanted them to be a couple. And Charlize Theron is a damn fine actress. I don't care.
Yeah, she's good.
Obviously, that's not a surprise. She's got Oscars and everything.
Right.
But she sold it for me. She sold it. I thought Trevor was really good. I remember...
Yeah, I'm probably doing a little harsh, but I don't like...
The scene where they're introducing Trevor as part of his council, his government council, a couple people on the council are arguing with each other. And up until this point, we had thought he was a bad guy. All we heard were the Monacans talk about how bad he was.
The good child, yeah, he's all evil.
And during this scene, just like the way he was sitting and the look on his face, I went, I don't think this... He doesn't seem like a bad guy. He seems pretty fair and reasonable, and he was able to convey that just
with like his body language
just
and
with
stuff.
the way he was, with very minute reactions.
For me, it wasn't
to the way,
any of the main people. Like, I do think Charlize Theron wasn't necessarily... Like, they did have good chemistry with the main guy, but other than that, I felt like both of them were weird choices for their roles. For both of them. For him and for her.
I will say, at the time, this was probably the first action movie Charlize Theron had done.
Yeah.
Up until this point, all she would do in her movies was get naked and cry. And I actually saw kind of a lot of Charlize Theron movies in the late 90s, early 2000s. And like Devil's Advocate.
Reindeer Games.
Reindeer Games, Devil's Advocate, Astronaut's Wife. These are get naked and cry roles for her. So when she got cast in a hardcore action role, I thought it was super bizarre.
Yeah.
Obviously now she's like the action go-to person with Fury Road and now this Atomic Blonde movie.
Right.
But this was the beginning of that. I don't know. I didn't get the miscast
I don't think that she was a
feel.
bad choice. It just seemed like either the rest... Like, I don't know. It just didn't seem to match up with the rest of the cast for me.
Well, nothing in this movie matches up to anything else.
Yeah, I
in
guess
this
that's kind of...
movie.
And I thought Frances McDormand was a totally random choice and not good for that role.
It was such a small role, though. But yeah, every time you saw her, you're just kind of like, what? What are you
Frances
doing
McDormand?
here?
Yeah.
But
I mean, maybe I'm a little harsh, but still, overall, I felt like it was just...
Yeah, I mean, it was weak material.
I don't know how to describe it.
It was weak material, and they didn't necessarily overcome it with their acting.
Yeah, it wasn't her, but yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, 2 isn't brutal. It just means it's below average, I think. But...
3 is average, and I gave it that extra half point because I noticed the chemistry between them.
And
because of the scene where I
noticeable.
noticed him, and I was like, hey, he actually did a good job in that scene, and I wasn't expecting it. All right. Tell me how you felt about the visuals. You can go first on this
I didn't
one.
like them. I
Okay.
thought it was, I mean, they were competently done in terms of sets, and I didn't like a lot of the computer graphics for like the plants and stuff, but they had just a weird style to everything that I didn't like. I didn't like the fucking weird hand feet that the one girl had.
Oh,
that
my
grossed
God.
me out.
Yeah.
But yes, this one assassin got some sort of operation where her hands or her feet are now extra hands.
That's horrible.
Like a monkey,
Yeah.
so she can like do more things, I guess. Except all she does is hurt her hand feet later because she's not wearing shoes. Like the weird blimp thing didn't look good. The fight at the end had some pretty not good special effects on some of it.
Yeah.
So I thought they were pretty bad overall.
I think you're going to give this a lot worse score than I did. So hit me
Really?
with it.
I said 1.5.
Yeah, I said 3.
Yeah.
I didn't care. The movie is pretty. The people are pretty. It's a bland, soft prettiness. I will say that.
But it looks fake. It all looks fake
Everything
to me.
looked very
That's
fake.
what I didn't like.
Absolutely.
Everything looked
Yeah.
absolutely fake to me.
Yeah, and I can tell they're trying to do bizarre visuals, and it does fall flat. Like the only things that are memorable are the hand feet and her stupid haircut. You know, it's
and them like digging into these weird like capsules that they have in their body that when they break them, it allows them to do like some sort of mental communication.
Yeah,
Like weird stuff like that.
I
It just
talked
didn't-
about
it
that
just
stuff.
didn't work
I
for
talked
me.
about that stuff in the structure section because I felt like all of the science in this movie was random. You couldn't ever predict what was going to happen,
Right.
and not that you want to be able to predict, but you want to at least feel like it fits.
Well, they
got to
be able to build a good world to where stuff flows and fits and everything.
There was
and it
zero
didn't really-
world building in
Yeah.
this. Everything that they tried
Well,
just
they
felt
did it.
out
It
of the
just didn't
blue.
really work because
Yeah.
it was all kind of
Because
haphazard.
even some of the stuff like surprised the people that it was happening to.
Right.
So
That's what's
you're like,
strange.
oh, if you didn't know this was a possibility, how
Right.
am I supposed to know? That
And then
this
they'd
was a
have weird stuff
possibility?
like they have guns. They were doing a big sniper battle at the end.
Yeah.
But then to get into the like basically the president's house, they had like genetically engineered grass and plants, and that's it. There
Yeah,
were no
and the grass would
guards.
stand up
The
and
grass
you're
would
like-
just be, "Oh, I'm gonna point at you. I'm sharp grass." And then her hand feet fell, and she's like, "Ouchie!"
Yeah,
And, like,
but then
that's
nothing
your
actually
security?
came from it. I thought
No,
that
she
maybe
just got hurt. They were just like little
and then she was fine.
things that stabbed her hands. They
Yeah.
weren't even poisoned or anything.
Yeah, and then
No, there
Aeon
were-
jumped over it
there
with her
were-
with her actual feet.
Yeah, with her shoes.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm being overly generous.
I don't think you are. I think you're being a little generous. I'm being a little harsh.
Yeah.
I think you should probably, probably a realistic view of it is, if it didn't like piss me off with its visuals,
Yeah.
I guess, would be like a 2 or 2.5.
No, I mean you can keep your 1. I'm gonna keep
I'm
my 3.
keeping it. Yeah.
no.
Well, it's
I'm
1.5, not.
You said 1.5.
Yeah, I
Okay.
said 1.5.
All right. Yeah, that's a little better.
So on par, I guess, with the other one overall, because it felt a lot more like it felt a lot less like they were purposefully trying to do everything and they were just trying stuff out. Like it felt like the first one, Ultraviolet, like they definitely had a vision. It was a stupid vision, but it was like their vision.
This one they just wanted to be.
We're like,
weird.
oh, we'll see what works. We'll do some weird stuff. You know what I mean? And
yeah, that I agree with you completely on that.
it doesn't. And also, I gave the extra boost for what's her name, so it really was like a 1 versus a 1.5.
Yeah, you don't really care all that much about
Charlize
Charlize
Theron,
Theron. I like Charlize Theron a lot.
Yeah.
I like the way she looks. I like the way that she acts. I've said this about her before, but I think that you take her the way that she looks.
Like, I have her books, I have her paintings. You see these shoes? Charlize Theron's? No, but I'm sure she would have loved them.
Shut up. I think you could take her and put her, like, implant her into any point in history, and she would always be, like, an impressively beautiful woman. So, whatever. So maybe she raises my visual score,
Yeah,
too.
sounds like you.
I guess I got a big old girl crush on
Yeah, and
Charlize
Charlize
Theron.
Theron, I
Whatever.
guess so.
Whatever, man. Don't judge me.
Like those Africans, huh?
What?
Isn't she South African?
Oh, yes. I thought you were saying I have a big crush on her like the Africans
No,
do.
I said
and
you
I was
like- you like those
I was like,
Africans.
do Africans like Charlize Theron a lot?
Probably.
I mean, everyone
At
seems
least in South
to,
Africa,
yeah.
I'm guessing, where she's
Sure.
from.
All right, so let's see if we agree on structure or not. I gave it a 2.
I have 1.5.
Okay, all right, that's not too far off. So
They did a better job of explaining. It was a little more straightforward, but still things happened that just didn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah,
Especially when it comes to like characters' motivations and
yeah.
everything. Like in general, this movie, I guess they explain a lot of it with a little brief conversation like that at the very end, explaining the clones and stuff.
yeah.
But for the vast majority of the movie, you don't really know what's going on. So it's not safe to say that they never tell you, but like it's not enough to make it like during the movie you're just like, okay,
but
who cares?
I was reasonably interested in what was going on.
It did keep you interested, and it did at least tell you.
So Ultraviolet, it wasn't holding anything back to try to make it interesting at the end. It just literally
could also tell.
It just literally wasn't explaining the things you needed to know in order to know what was going on.
And you could tell that was what's happening. With this movie, you say, okay, it looks like they're going to at least tell you something. Yeah. It may be stupid.
There was a mystery.
But they're going to tell you something.
Why did they kill her sister? Why do she and Trevor
know each other?
Yeah, have visions when they get close to each other. There were mysteries that needed to be solved.
And the payoff is kind of stupid.
The payoff was
and that's probably why I didn't like it.
Yeah. The payoff was unfulfilling, but there was at least setup and payoff.
And there were some weird things that I didn't really get right away, like she's fighting the hand-foot girl, and then all of a sudden that girl's underwater with like a reed, and I didn't like put it together that she'd like tied her up there. I was like, what the hell's going on?
I put that together.
You did?
Yeah, maybe that was just, you were pretty bored during this movie.
Yeah.
I was paying more attention to this movie.
I think that's the main problem
while we
for
were
me
watching
was not
it,
even the story and stuff making sense, was that it was a much more slower paced movie. It honestly wasn't exciting. Yeah. There was a little bit of intrigue. Like, okay, what's a real explanation for this? Like, I tend towards being curious, so I wanted to know, but I didn't really care.
I have to admit, while watching this movie, I was all right with it. I was watching it. I wasn't quite as passively watching it as you were. You were just, the movie was just happening to you. I was a little bit more engaged with the movie than you were.
To me, it was too boring. And I did the fights and stuff, and like the weird occasionally flipping around was just not.
The fights were underwhelming.
Very underwhelming. That's what I mean.
I expected her to be able to do a lot more, and it was inconsistent what she could do.
Right.
There was a point Eric alluded to the fact that they're running across the lawn, and the grass is genetically engineered to stand up and stab them.
Right. It's like sharp, like the little blades.
Yeah. So at one point, Aeon does this huge running jump and she lands on something, and then she starts to tip forward and she almost hits the grass, and she's at this impossible angle that
like doing a splits and like leaning forward.
Doing a split, and she's an inch away from the grass and she gets herself out of it. So there was something like that was basically like physics defying stuff.
Right.
And then at one point when she jumps, she's trying to get onto the blimp, and she jumps off a platform and grabs onto like trailing
like a ribbons almost, or ropes.
Ribbons off the blimp, and she's really fucking struggling getting up these ribbons. And I was like, you were jumping across grass 20
doing like
minutes
a full
ago.
planche over here for a second ago.
Why is this that difficult? I've seen army people do this 1,000 times.
I've told you about my rope climbing skills.
Yeah, Eric is very proficient at rope climbing. He's got a whole technique. She did not know.
She did not know my technique.
So maybe it was just because you just told me about that. I was like, man, bitch needs to practice with her ropes.
She needs Eric's rope climbing technique.
So very underwhelming fights. That's probably a little bit more in visuals.
I mean, this goes towards overall the movie being not structured well for excitement or engagement.
Yeah,
and little things that, like, nothing big like the other movie where you just totally didn't know what was going on, but little stuff that, like, why would they do this? Why is this like this? Like, why can't they go outside again? Yeah. Like, oh, the wall's down, now they can go outside. Why couldn't they before?
Oh, and I remember specifically one thing. She was in the Good Child house, and she was kind of rooting around with this stuff, and she finds this kind of like bandolier thing, like a chest belt. Is that a bandolier?
Well, a bandolier is a thing that you wear over your shoulder.
Oh, it's like a double. Ammunition. It's like this weird belt thing that when she picks it up, it wraps itself around her, and it's a fucking like transporting device.
Yeah, like it warps her.
It teleports her.
Right.
And it just and she is surprised by it. So
into some library.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's not the science in this movie is extremely inconsistent.
Right.
Because you don't know what they're supposed to be able to do. They have telepathy.
But they don't even really have like cars or anything, do they? It doesn't show like vehicles.
Yeah. Yeah, they have telepathy.
Other than the blimp.
There's constant surveillance on them that when they look at it, it's in these like weird pools of water that's showing them.
Very stylized.
So I could tell after I read a little bit on Wikipedia about it, I could tell that they were just trying to be avant-garde and
because
trying to be artistic
because the original one was so bizarre,
and it was a complete failure. They just
honestly,
they either didn't do it enough or
I've never watched any of the actual show.
Yeah.
So I have no idea if any of this stuff was pulled from the show. Probably some of it was.
Maybe.
Like, I'm assuming some of it
maybe
was.
The
like the weird
telepathy,
capsules that you did telepathy or.
Yeah. I got the feeling that the that the teleportation must have been from the show because
who knows?
it had no effect on anything in the movie.
Yeah,
she just
like,
kind of tried it out a couple
warped
times.
into another room, it's like warps back. It's like, that was cool.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, what?
But I can also communicate by telepathy, so I guess it's not all
and
that
like,
cool.
Was Postlewaite supposed to be 400 years old?
I think so.
And
Why was he 400 years old? Everyone else was normal
They
age?
did this thing where like some of the people would have like a little bit of a memory of their previous lives, and other
That
people
really
would. But
upset
there's like,
Eric.
yeah, it's like a clone. You wouldn't have any fucking memories.
Yeah.
It's a new person. It's
But
just a genetically identical person.
There would have been no movie if that didn't happen. So it just went in with.
That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, no, that's why I'm saying it went in with this whole like.
And why would if a disease sterilized someone, their clone would not be sterile? This is bullshit.
Yeah, I'm shrugging.
I believe in science, Tony.
Not teleporting, telepathy, assassin ladies.
Not witchcraft.
Well, I was bothered by the fact that with the Good Child regime, it was the same two brothers every time. And I'm like, the people wouldn't notice after 400 years that it's the two exact same people.
Right, because it's not like everyone would die at the same time. You'd have someone who's like 80 years old, and these people hadn't died, and then they'd come back, and they'd be like 15, and be like, shit, these people look the same.
yeah, you remind me of my granddaughter, and like they're not
well, like
that
maybe
many
you're
people.
40 or like 20 when Good Child dies, and then when the next one grows up to be 40, you're 60, and you're like, these fuckers exactly the same.
Right.
There's no pictures or video of any of these people.
Yeah, and are you saying that one of them just keeps having two sons who look exactly like the two brothers before him? That's not the way fucking like genetics work. So
Right.
I feel like people would have caught on to something weird from
because that's also the only one that like everyone else's clone was distributed randomly to another family.
Yeah.
Except apparently theirs wouldn't, or else it would just be someone they maybe. I mean, I don't think it was supposed to be that. No, because it couldn't have been. Because then they really wouldn't have remembered each other if it was just another clone would grow up as a good child or whatever. A randomly assigned clone to their mom. I don't think that's how it was supposed to have been done.
The Good Childs were the only family that the clones went to the same family.
The same family, right.
And then they would raise the clones explaining everything. So the Good Child clones knew they were clones.
Right.
No one else knew they were clones. And the clones would get randomly assigned to another family.
Right.
Wouldn't you notice after a while that none of your kids look like you? And nobody's kids
That's what
ever
I was saying.
look like
even
them?
if you didn't look exactly like them, there'd be some that looked totally different.
Yeah. Yeah, so
and no one ever did like any sort of genetic testing or anything that would figure this out.
Right. So that fell apart on logic.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's all the little stuff like that just made me like, fuck it. I don't care.
In the end, I have to say, I was okay watching this movie.
Eric,
I
was just
I'm gonna
bored.
say I would watch it again. Not like on my own, but if a group of people I was in sat down and said, I want to watch Aeon Flux, I go, yeah, sure, whatever.
Honestly, I was more entertained by the other movie.
Yes.
Than I was by this one. So
I was entertained by you making fun of the other movie,
right.
But I could watch this one as a real movie. It's just without consequence. It's kind of
and I wasn't sitting there suffering the whole time. I was just like, there wasn't much here.
It was kind of like going to a nice restaurant and getting a salad for dinner. It's just like unsatisfying. And why did I do this? I could have gotten something better.
Yeah.
But like it kind of tasted okay while you had it, and you don't really regret it. It didn't make me question my life choices.
I wasn't sitting there like, it just, it's just like, that wasn't very good.
Yeah.
You know?
No, to me, a movie like this sort of, it shows the weakness within the Rotten Tomatoes ranking system because quality-wise, it shouldn't have been only 1%
No,
away.
it's really a thumbs up or thumbs down system. And when all it really means is that 90% of the people gave it a thumbs down.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean it was a hard thumbs down.
But if you look at the reasons why it was a thumbs down, and like you said,
it's a little boring
sort
kind
of the
thing.
Enthusiasm of the thumbs down or thumbs up, this one is really a sideways film for me.
It's a mediocre movie
that
I gave harsh penalties to for being
boring
and not explaining a lot of the stuff.
So what was your structure score?
1.5. So I gave it 5 overall.
Okay. And I gave it 8.5, so we're going 13.5 for that one. So you only gave
it an 8.5?
Yeah, I'm telling you, I didn't.
All right.
I was actually fairly okay with this movie.
That's fine.
It's not a good movie.
It wasn't trash.
I
mean,
know.
I'll give you that.
Maybe I was starting to get sick, and I just wanted things to like happen.
I do think I'm being
face.
overly harsh on it, but
yeah.
I stand by my
it's fine.
Personal
It's
score.
not a good movie. It's not a good movie. So saying it's only a half point better than
no one's
Ultraviolet,
missed anything by this movie. Yeah.
You do not need to stop. What
And
you're
in
doing.
reality, I'm saying it's a full point better because I'm just saying like, hey, I got to look at Mia Jovovich the whole time.
Yeah.
So that wasn't that bad.
Yeah. Whereas for me, I was like, this was almost twice as good.
And you got to look at Charlize Theron the whole time. So. I mean, she's no Hemsworth, but...
Yeah. Well, in the last movie, I got Hemsworth and Charlize Theron.
Oh, shit, you're right.
Yeah.
You must have been in
And
Cloud
I did say
9.
she was perfectly cast as the queen who's better looking than everybody else.
Right.
That's basically how I feel about her.
I mean, that is kind of the good way to describe it. She looks like royalty.
Yes.
Not like super hot necessarily, but she just looks of high blood, I guess. It's the only way to describe it.
She's a striking looking woman.
Right.
Like, at any point in history, she would stand out in a crowd.
Especially if she gets naked and cries.
I'm going to have to go back and watch some of those older Charlize Theron movies and see
The
if
only
it's
one I remember specifically
as blatant
is
as I remember
Devil's
it being.
Advocate, where she's like all cut up and just like drops her robe
Is she?
and
Yeah,
is crying.
she's like in a
"Ah!"
church.
I'm like,
Yeah.
can you stop crying? It's
So that scene, I think, really imprinted on me because I watched Devil's Advocate with my parents.
and like, oh shit, boobies.
Yeah, I was like, there's so many boobs in this movie, and she's crying with the boobs. On the
Right.
boobs, she's
I
crying.
was like, I don't know how to deal with this. There's boobs, but she's crying. So
Yeah. And I think Astronaut's Wife, same thing, but I
never
remember
saw that.
almost nothing about
was that
movie. Johnny
Captain
Depp.
Jack's? Yep.
Yep. I remember
I've
almost
never
nothing.
seen that movie.
And then Reindeer Games, was that Ben Affleck?
Ben Affleck, yeah.
Oh, God.
It
And she
also
was bad
had,
in
like,
it. I remember that one.
Did it have Casey Affleck in it too, or Matt Dillon, or somebody like that?
I do not remember. I
have
just
to
remember
go back.
she...
I did see that, but that was a long
I
time
remember she
ago.
got naked and she cried at some point in the
Yeah.
movie because it followed the pattern I expected from her, and Aeon Flux did not.
Maybe
It's
that's
been a
what
while
broke her
since
pattern.
She got naked.
Maybe they saw she could do action stuff and it broke the pattern.
This movie really didn't prove she could do action stuff. I would say Fury Road did.
Well, I mean, it proved that is not just going to play like the girlfriend or something.
True.
She could carry a movie, obviously, and everything else. So
Yes. The only thing this movie proved was that they couldn't do a sequel because nobody saw it.
because they didn't do a good enough job.
And everyone disliked it. But it wasn't even bad enough to be notoriously bad.
No,
like
it was. I
Ultraviolet.
wouldn't even. It's weird because you're right. I wouldn't say that this was a terrible movie. It was just completely forgettable, which to me is unforgivable. You know what I mean? Like that's worse than being a movie like Ultraviolet, where you're like, that was. You got to see how shitty this movie is, kind of thing.
Ultraviolet is one that you
would
do
watch
tell
to
people
show-
like you're not going to believe this,
Right, but you would never be like, hey, you need to go watch Aeon Flux. It's just
unless you really want to see someone with hands for feet,
right, which you shouldn't because it's fucking gross and weird.
Oh, it's upsetting. Yeah.
And that was one of the weird technological things that they just never addressed. Like, okay, you can do these weird, insane body modifications, and no one else had any of
What
any
else can you
kind.
do?
No one else had any.
You had one person who did this.
Like, I got my modifications done. I have gorilla feet now.
Yeah.
I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And then it didn't. I like that it was a terrible idea. Like, she jumped.
really was.
She jumped and climbed around. Not even really better than Charlize Theron with like pumps on or whatever, like heels.
Yeah, she was a slower runner.
Right.
She was worse.
And then she
like,
hurt her hands on the spiny grass.
Yeah, it was worse in every way.
I immediately regret this decision.
Yeah. So that is going to do it for us this week. Thank you for listening and for giving a new podcast a chance. If you want to get in touch with us, our email address is faintpraisepodcast@gmail.com. And we will hopefully catch you next week.
See ya.